When you speak of a mother, you most likely imagine a person who cares for you, loves you, and most importantly, chooses you over anything in any situation imaginable. But when you think of a half-fallen one thinks of responsibility, impartiality, and a person whose gaze stares at all as if they're equal. If faced with a situation, one would expect a mother to choose her daughter over all. But when a leader is faced with a situation, they choose the entire race, and in such a scenario, care and love for a single person would seem unfair. There will be no spoiling of one to a leader, and somehow the half-fallen one somehow holds this dual position to you. Sometimes you will catch her spoiling you, but other times she will make decisions that might, at times, even give you the lesser of better options, just to fulfill her position as the elder. Before your mother, you're the only one. Before the half-fallen one, even though you're her daughter, you're just one of many. There is a considerable difference between both, Ryuk stated casually as he cut a piece of meat and dipped it into his mouth, the light in his eyes beaming as he unconsciously began eating faster. The taste. It's 1,000 times better than the one in the Arjun Hall. Quickly, Ryuk dove in as his stomach made satisfying grumbling sounds. His surprise and hunger made him forget Morgaine, who had suddenly zoned off. She looked at Ryuk blankly for a few seconds but soon regained herself. The sight of him rushing the food into his mouth made her raise an eyebrow. "Now, who is looking like the barbarian?" Morgaine asked as Ryuk felt a kick on his leg, finally breaking him out of his robotic motion. "Are you the one that cooked this?" Ryuk asked as Morgaine's eyes sparkled. "You think so?" she asked, as Ryuk looked at her for a bit before shaking his head. "Nah, forget it. You're a princess. Those spoiled things don't cook. This was probably made by a beautiful maid," Ryuk stated as Morgaine's head turned dramatically red, and golden energy spilled from her uncontrollably. "You dickhead!" Morgaine roared in anger as Ryuk felt the table tilt forward toward him, almost sending the food flying, but he quickly reacted and managed to push the table back, saving the food, but at the cost of falling off his seat and rolling a few meters backward. Still, Ryuk had now clutched an apple-like fruit that had fallen along with him, sinking his teeth into it. His eyes almost rolled back in his head. This is so good too," Ryuk stated, quickly gaining the energy to sit upright in the process, and Morgaine rolled her eyes sarcastically. "It's just an apple, duh. You don't have to be so pretentious to make it seem like you're being taken care of," she mused as Ryuk returned to his seat. "An apple, huh?" he asked Morgaine as he looked at one of the fruits on the table. He picked it up, sinking his teeth into it and smiling radiantly. "I haven't eaten a fruit before, only heard of them," he replied to Morgaine, whose gaze flashed in shock. "You haven't eaten a fruit before?" she asked before clapping her hands. That seemed right. I don't suppose any tree would grow in that wasteland. She mused under her breath, but Ryuk still caught it. A wasteland. Yes, that is what Grade E is called. My mother told me about your story while you were unconscious, Morgaine explained, and Ryuk shrugged. It didn't really matter if she knew where he was from. He wasn't ashamed of coming from such a low-grade place. No matter what everyone might call it, that was his home, and there was no place better than home. "You know, you nailed it right on the head about my mom," Morgaine said with a chuckle as Ryuk raised his head. "It's really hard being the daughter of the half-fallen one. So much expectation, so much unneeded respect, and forced actions. Many people, once they learned of my origin, instantly had their attitude do an absolute 360-degree change to one of respect. That side of people, where they have to bow and smile even when they're not currently happy, seems so fake to me. I hate it so much. Everyone just seems to hide their true sides when they hear of my background and switch to this weird, respectful state. That was why I tried to hide my identity when arriving at the Arisen Hall. But all of the instructors already knew, and they made sure to limit my interactions with the students. In the end, it just ended up becoming boring once more. At least, it gave me a chance to massively increase my strength. And then there is the mention of her making hard decisions. Truly, she has made hard decisions. Like me being her daughter, I could have easily gained access to the academy without having to train relentlessly for 5 months and pass some dumb test, but she forced me to do it anyway. Just because she's the half-fallen one, she has to uphold her image of righteousness and impartiality, even if it clashes against what is best for me. And she is incredibly strict about it. Once she takes the crown of the half-fallen, it's like I cease to become her daughter any longer. Her gaze becomes indifferent, lacking warmth or color. I become judged by my achievements, which, of course, I don't seem to have much of in such a state. Morgaine rambled on and on as Ryuk quietly listened. It was like a bottled emotion within her, which she had finally chosen to reveal, and Ryuk's attention worked at full speed, gulping down everything. He was completely enraptured in her words. Why? Because he, too, had always wished for it, for what it would feel like to have a mother of his own. That was why he gave her his listening ears for 30 minutes of rambling on and on. Morgaine finally paused as she finished, only to see Ryuk still looking at her. Only then did she realize she had zoned out while speaking her thoughts. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry It's fine," Ryuk said, waving her off. "But even then, Morgaine, I would say you're quite lucky still." "What do you mean?" "I mean, of course, sometimes she might have to force you to make decisions that aren't the best for you, just for her own race. She might look at you with the gaze of one who is only one of many. And of course, people choose to deal with you with respect, which you don't feel you deserve, while hiding away their true sides. Most times, you were deprived of love from your own mother and sometimes deprived of true affection from others. Most of the time, you're lost. Everyone treats you with love and care, and in such a case, it's hard to really find out who is real and who is not. Those must be hard things to go through every living day of a person's life. But still, you said it yourself. When you're just home alone with the half-fallen one, she regains her smile, regains her care and love. That must mean she cares. That must mean she knows, even though she really is the half-fallen one, that she, at least, acknowledges the fact that you're her daughter. That affirmation, I think, is enough for you. You can play along with her serious vibes when she is the half-fallen one. You know she belongs to you when the world fades away anyway. And besides, I would say the half-fallen one faces the most hardship. For her to care so much and pretend not to, just to fulfill her role and responsibility to her own race, and then be hated for that by the one she cares most for in the world. That must hurt deeper than anything. She loves you but can't show too much of that due to her role, where she has to look after everything from a leader's point of view. How hard it must be to be a mother and a leader at the same time. All of this shouldered by a single heart, and most not even sensing how difficult that is. As much as there are expectations on you, it is almost nothing compared to what is on her. She is the half-fallen one. Can you imagine the weight of her expectations? But she is your mother too, and that adds additional weight to her shoulders. Weight from everything and anything. The last thing you should do is make her feel upset or add too much to her burdens. She cares for you, even if not all the time. That is a fact you can't ignore. And I think that's all you need. So far, you know she keeps caring for you, even if she somehow shows the opposite sometimes. The fact is what you need. Don't make it more difficult for her. And for people hiding their real selves from you because of your identity, you don't need to worry much about that. Most people don't have that much of a different side anyway. The bad people don't have much goodness in them. And as for the good people, they would still treat you with the same respect you deserve anyway, whether or not you're the princess. So you being worried about people not showing their true colors is worrying that bad people don't treat you badly. A bit dumb, don't you think? Ryuk stated in his blank tone, slamming the idea straight into Morgaine's head without any sort of sugarcoating. This is what made Ryuk's words hit harder than anything. He wouldn't try and be respectful when giving his advice, nor try to mold it to look a certain way. He would simply say his heart, and was absolutely fine with whether or not the person was offended. It was their problem. He had stated what he felt. Surprisingly, Ryuk, you're the only one that I have met that was of my origin, and yet still completely lackadaisical about it. Why is that? Morgaine asked, And Ryuk shrugged. Don't know. Maybe that's how all humans are. He replied as Morgaine harumphed. If there is an award for the best bootlickers in existence, it would be the humans. A/N. I've met a couple of them along with my mother in the meetings, Morgaine said as Ryuk chuckled. That was a funny statement, but it made absolute sense. If the humans aren't in the top 10 families, it must mean they are somehow weaker in grade B. The weak's best way of survival is to bootlick the strong. So, of course, it made sense they would bootlick the daughter of the half-fallen one, a leader of the devilish fallen family. I don't know, really. I'll just say I address people based on my first impression of them. When I saw you, you were nothing more than another genius, just like me. I didn't even know your grade and simply took you as a classmate of sorts. Eventually, even after I learned you're most likely a top 3 genius, I still didn't care at all. Top 3, top 19, top 40, they all don't matter. I see you as a classmate. You're still a classmate. When I saw Ignatius, I saw power and strength. I saw terrifying potential. Even after I succeeded in defeating him, when I see him next time, my eyes will most likely still flash in the same awe as when I saw him. Even if he is weak later, or maybe crippled, I would still have my eyes flashing in respect because that was how I saw him when I first saw him. Nothing matters much to me after the first appearance of a person. That is why the half-fallen one will always be the half-fallen one to me. Even if she's your mother, I'll always still see her as the half-fallen one. A being to be treated with absolute respect and reverence. Ryuk stated what he believed about himself. He didn't know why even he himself was like that, but that was just how it was. And it was better to accept himself for who he is than to pretend to be what he is not and meld in with the crowd. Ryuk's words somehow resonated still with Morgaine. While it was true, her mother really acts cold so much and callous so many times with her words, the truth was undoubtable. She loved her so much. So what if she couldn't always show that all the time? What she needed was the affirmation, and that was already enough. And for people always being so respectful to her, just as Ryuk stated, bad people would treat her badly, and the good people would treat her with the respect she deserved, princess or not. So if everyone treated her well, wasn't it a win-win case all year round? And yet she felt sad. For what? Bad people not treating her badly? Or good people treating her how they would normally have treated her anyway? In the end, his words made so much sense, yet looking at him, he looked just like the everyday dumb-looking kid. You dickhead. You called me dumb, Morgaine said as she kicked at Ryuk's feet, causing him to wince in pain. Her kicks were somehow so strong. Even if you see me as a classmate, I am still a girl at least, not a guy, you dickhead, she said with a hump as Ryuk rolled his eyes. A girl or boy? What is the difference? He asked, and Morgaine rolled her eyes. Stop messing with me. A woman, lady, or girl must be treated with respect and care. That's basic information. Basic information, huh? I don't really know. I have only seen a woman once or twice in grade E. Only here do they seem to be everywhere. And I wonder why girls should be treated with respect anyway. They don't seem that much different from men, right? Ryuk asked innocently, and Morgaine humphed. Women are much weaker, you know. For that reason, they need care and affection and respect, she said as Ryuk raised an eyebrow. Women are much weaker? But I'm pretty sure the half-fallen one is easily the strongest Fallen in this area, and you yourself can most likely defeat all of the geniuses in T. Arisen Hall, male or female, in a fair fight. How is a woman weak at all? Ryuk stated, rolling his eyes at her as if she was dumb, and Morgaine was lost for words. Is he pulling my leg? If so, he must be pretty good at keeping a straight face while doing so, Morgaine thought, harumphing before angrily diving into her food. Unknown to her, Ryuk truly saw no difference between a boy and a girl. Grade B's structure of perception was vastly different from Grade E. What was considered societal norms didn't exist in Grade E, so when Ryuk was exposed to things he was not formerly aware of, he questioned them, making him look like he was joking when he was, in fact, not doing so. Both dived into their food, and eventually the dishes were wiped clean of food. Morgaine managed to eat more due to her anger, and Ryuk was already starved for a week, making his stomach's capacity nearly endless. It still shocked him how he ate without really having a stomach, but he didn't care that much about it. Rising up, he asked, "And where's the kitchen?" "It's down below." "Why?" Morgaine asked as she watched Ryuk begin packing up the dishes. But then his hand got grabbed by Morgaine, stopping him. "Don't tell me you're planning on washing the dishes yourself?" she said, as Ryuk nodded his head. "Of course. That is what the maids are paid for. This is how they earn their means of livelihood. Do the washing yourself, and you deprive them of their reason for being here, throwing everything into disorder. Let them do what they do best," Morgaine said, this time seriously, and Ryuk thought about it for a while with furrowed eyebrows before he found sense in her words. If the maids were hired here for that reason, then he doing it might truly upset the chaos. Just like how the instructors were hired to tutor the students. If Ryuk tried pretending he was an instructor and lecturing the students, it would upset the balance in the academy, and that was wrong. He nodded with understanding as Morgaine released his hands before she rose to her feet and headed outside. 10 minutes later, Ryuk was back in the room he had left from previously. His eyes subconsciously tried to look outside, and he found it was gradually closing in on nighttime. "I feel sleepy," Ryuk mused as he moved to his bed before waving off Morgaine. "What? This is a castle, right? So there should be more than one room. Go to your room," Ryuk stated as Morgaine looked at him before harumphing. "And why can't I sleep on the same bed as you?" "Because you're a girl." "Duh," Ryuk stated, as Morgaine harumphed coldly. "Oh, you dickhead. You finally know the difference between a girl and a boy now, don't you?" she asked with faint anger, feeling betrayed, as Ryuk chuckled and dove into his mattress before whispering, "Good night, Morgaine." The second he said that, all movement ceased from Ryuk, his breathing coming to an absolute relax. "And he's out so fast?" Morgaine thought to herself before she gave him one last look, ensured the mattress covered him well, and then headed out, switching off the light. "Good night, Ryuk." The door closed, and silence followed in Ryuk's room for a while as the sound of marginal footsteps fully faded away. Ryuk's eyes flashed open as he sat down properly from his bed. "Hey Isha," Ryuk called in his head, and immediately, a long silvery-scaled python appeared in Ryuk's lap, its forked tongue covering out and dancing over Ryuk's eyes as he smiled brilliantly. "You're finally awake," Ryuk called as Isha gave a loud SSSS sound, as if in understanding of Ryuk's words. "I had thought you would never appear at all during the test. Yet, you managed to save my life at the most important point. Thank you, Isha." Ryuk was absolutely and completely right when he talked about Isha ending up saving his life. At that last second, when that column of lava had spilled on him, Ryuk's transformation, Neo-Umbral Reaper, was already at its end. If the transformation had had to endure that column of lava, then it would have been torn through, and Ryuk would have returned to his normal form, where he would have been burned to death by the column of flames. Even if he somehow managed to survive getting reduced to ashes, he would most likely have been fully spent and knocked out, and Ignatius still had some little flame left to stand to his feet and be declared the winner of the match. But when Isha came out and blocked all of the column for him, Ryuk had been able to stand unfazed by the attack, and with Isha's appearance, he was finally able to activate King's Aura, the ultimate card that made him win the match without needing to fight anymore. King's Aura could only be used if Isha was around him. In the end, Isha had saved him from the destruction of the flames that ought to have made him lose and also enabled him to activate King's Aura that rooted out the last fighting will left in Ignatius' mind, making Ryuk win the battle. Without Isha's last-second intervention, it was safe to say Ryuk would have lost that fight. That was why he felt himself grateful for her appearance. And looking at Isha now, even though it seemed like the same tiny python, Ryuk knew that was a facade. He had seen the form Isha took during the battle. Its size had reached close to 3 meters in pure length, and it was incredibly big. This must mean that during Isha's slumber, it had managed to gain an expansion and contraction skill. And Ignatius's lava, which had turned Ryuk to ashes, had been somehow frozen in ice blocks by Isha's ice, broken, and smothered off easily. This must mean its ice manipulation and mana must have reached a whole otherworldly level. Now even Ryuk had no idea just how powerful Isha was. The little thing had barely shown its ability during the test, and who knew what it was still hiding. With enough rubs from Ryuk, Isha slithered down the bed with ease, its eyes scanning around the room one by one and looking at everything. Ryuk stared at it for a while, chuckling before he activated the system. Congratulations on Host's victory. Host has completed the quest. Pride of a Genius. Quest information. Successfully accept to join the Fallen Family's Genius Trial and fight for a spot to be one of the students admitted into the prestigious Ascension Academy. This was the quest that had gotten Ryuk into all of the trouble in the first place. It had seemed impossible when he had received it, but now, here he was, having fulfilled it. Host has obtained the following: plus 5 level-up cards, plus 10,000 purchase points, plus 5,000 EXP, plus 1 free evolutionary card for Isha, the system stated as Ryuk jumped out of the bed. Finally, I get the purchase points. With this, I can buy a new cultivation manual that comes with special ingrained abilities, and also, with Isha's evolutionary card, I'll evolve Isha, and in so doing, be able to obtain one of her abilities. Yes, Ryuk screamed, but soon he got control of himself as he crawled back into the mattress. Now, time to balance up my stats. And I remember well, I already had some attribute points which I kept for the battle with Igantius, but the pressure of the battle had made me forget about them. Not that 30 or so attribute points would have made much of a difference, Ryuk mused before commanding. System interface. Name: Ryuk Null. Age: 16. Cultivation stage: Perfectionate Origin Plane Cultivation. Level: 19. EXP: 5. 200/7000. Level up cards: 5. Does host wish to use level up cards? The system asked as Ryuk nodded. Congratulations. Host has successfully used a level up card. Host has leveled up to level 20. Plus 5 attribute points will now be added for every level up. Host has obtained 20 attribute points. _1 level up card used. Host has leveled up to level 21. Plus 20 attribute points obtained. _1 level up card used. Host has leveled up to level 22. Plus 20 attribute points obtained. _1 level up card used. Host has leveled up to level 23. Plus 20 attribute points obtained. _1 level up card used. Host has leveled up to level 24. Plus 20 attribute points obtained. Just like when I leveled up to level 10, another 5 attribute points have been added to my stats. Ryuk beamed as the interface changed, bringing out his stats tab. Stats: Strength: 100. Agility: 100. Endurance: 100. Charisma: 11. Intelligence: 40. Mana: 50. Luck: Null. Attribute points: 130. So many attribute points, he said in slight shock. He had never before seen such an amount of attribute points. Now, Ryuk decided to fully balance his stats properly. Now that the fear of combat had faded away, he could relax a bit and make sure his stats made much sense. Add 60 attribute points to intelligence and add 39 points to charisma, Ryuk ordered immediately. His body froze up as he felt an incredibly hot, yet relaxing wave of energy swim into his brain. Immediately, a bright flash of blue light emanated from Ryuk's ears, feeling an intense transformation being made to his brain, as if it was suddenly being enhanced. He stood in the same position for a little more than 2 minutes before he once more regained his body. When Ryuk regained his consciousness, at first, it seemed as though nothing had changed. The ceiling, the faint shadows, the tall buildings out the window, everything appeared the same. Yet something seemed profoundly different. His mind was alight with clarity, processing information at a speed that startled even him. He was able to notice minute details that he'd never paid attention to before. So, this is the effect of increasing intelligence, huh? He could only wonder as the notification flashed once more. Congratulations! Host has successfully increased his stats. Strength 100. Agility 100. Endurance 100. Intelligence 100. Charisma 50. Mana 50. Luck null. Attribute points 31. Now my intelligence rivals my strength too. My charisma, though not having much effect, is still useful in contracting new pets. I don't want to keep the charisma stats lying at the bottom, Ryuk mused distantly to himself. One day, I'll need it, and it won't be the best option if it's at its lowest. It might not have much effect now, but who knows when it will save my life from a mutated beast. Ri's musings trailed off as he glanced over his stats interface. His intelligence, rivaling his strength, and agility tabs brought him a joy that words couldn't describe. Now it was safe to say all his physical attributes were well balanced. His charisma worked mainly on beasts, and even that was half his normal attribute points, which was still a positive. 50 was better than 11, no matter how one looked at it. And since Ryuk was in no hurry to improve his strength now, he let the remaining 31 attribute points sit there. He had no idea how the Ascension Academy would look like, so it was better to leave some stats points just in case of emergencies in the future. Now for the purchase points. Since my mana stats points can't increase, buying a cultivation manual wouldn't make much sense since I'll still be stuck at 50 points anyway. What I need to do now is find a way to level up to the plane of Ascension. I will need manuals on that, and within this castle, there should definitely be some form of library or books I can use. I'll try getting that from Morgaine tomorrow. Hopefully, there's something I can use. So, I have to move to the plane of Ascension before my purchase points can be successfully used. As for Isha's evolutionary points, I can make her go through it now. But I'm guessing she'll go through another deep slumber and monumental power increase. She had just woken up from close to a week's slumber a few days ago. To make her go through an evolution so quickly. Ryuk paused, sighing deeply. Maybe I should slow things down a bit for her. Perhaps a week from now, when I get to the institute, I can make Isha evolve. Somehow, Ryuk felt he was to blame for Isha's deep slumber. He had been the one to summon her into that Apex Radiance pool, the reward for completing the preliminary test. And in the end, Isha had absorbed the pool's energy and gone into slumber for close to a week. Somehow, Ryuk felt guilty. Even though Isha not only leveled up in strength but also managed to help him doing so, it was no doubt that Ryuk had put her to sleep for a week. The only thing that calmed him was that he had grown Isha's strength, something incredibly necessary for their survival in this world. He had helped Isha, and a lot too. But to make the little thing go through another slumber just a few days after it had barely awakened was something Ryuk couldn't handle. So, he decided to slow down the pace and let Isha see more of the world. Since I've revealed Isha to the entire world already, there's no need to hide her anymore. Doing so might just make others, like Morgaine, wonder why. And Isha too doesn't seem to be the type who loves the pet world so much, based on how it feasts its eyes on everything once it's out. Perhaps I should let her out a bit. And besides, it doesn't look like those monstrous mutated beasts too. Ryuk mused as he looked at Isha. The ice python was insanely beautiful, with well-aligned scales, a snowy white color, and flashing gem-blue eyes. It was the perfect-looking creature. Ryuk had fought many snake-mutated beasts during his past hunts, but they were all monstrous-looking, with jagged fangs and thorny, rough scales. None of them could compare to Isha's form at all, and he knew the world would easily accept Isha based on her looks. And if things were to go wrong, Ryuk could simply summon her back into the pet world before any harm came to her. Now he felt he should give Isha some free rights, to move out when it loved and return to the pet world if it wanted, instead of confining it in all the time. I'll use the purchase points after breaking through the plane of Ascension and buy a good manual. And then, I'll evolve Isha close to when it is time to go to the Ascension Academy. That is settled. Ryuk mused and commanded. Deactivate system interface. The stats interface faded away from his gaze, and he exhaled loudly. I finally activated Nano-Umbral Reaper in the end. And the side effect of that. Ryuk thought, and instantly, the notification flashed before his eyes. The side effect of activating Nano-Umbral Reaper is very severe, host. Not only does the host fall into a deep slumber for close to a week, but the host's nanobody was gravely injured, losing its regenerative power shortly after the host lost consciousness. If not for the high-grade healing serums that were used by the Half-Fallen One to give the host his energy back, the system calculates the host would have required a month of slumber before he could barely open his eyes, and another week of helplessness before the host could stand to his feet. And 2 weeks more before the host would be capable of any battle whatsoever. That would be 2 months of the host being crippled from activating the Nano-Umbral Reaper. Unless in an impossible situation like the one the host found himself in previously, the system highly advises against the host using the Nano-Umbral Reaper again. The host's nanobody is too weak to bear that power. Perhaps there will come a day where the host would be able to freely use the power like the Nano Reaper scythe, but for now, the host is too weak to access such dark power. The system explained at length, and Ryuk could almost sense the worried tone as he nodded seriously. If he had truly been in a life-and-death battle with a beast and had used Nano-Umbral Reaper, Ryuk too would have gone unconscious after that and only woken up a month later. Who knew what would have happened to him? He was lucky to have the Half-Fallen One by his side, or he would have been dead. Okay, system. I'll try never to get myself in such a situation again. Good. And talking of the Half-Fallen One, there is something suspicious about her, don't you think? What does host mean? The system asked as Ryuk sat up wearily, his eyes narrowed. The Half-Fallen One had only helped me before because of a good reason, and that was the authority card. But the deal was for me to win the match and then go to the Ascension Academy. Even if there's the sense of a week before the Ascension Academy doors open, the Half-Fallen One could have let me stay in the Arisen Hall for a week and let the instructors there take care of me. From there, I'd go to the Ascension Academy. I was never to meet the Half-Fallen One or be associated with her in any way after the deal the last time. But she actually brought me to her house, used high-grade serums, just like you said before, to make me heal, and even entrusted my care to her daughter. And now, seemingly having decided to house me till the Ascension Academy starts. I'm thinking, don't you think the Half-Fallen One is being a little too kind? Ryuk stated with a suspicious tone. The system went silent before replying. Host's points are valid. The system would love to say it's just host being paranoid, but in this world, the system has come to learn not many things are free, actually nothing is. Even host receiving the card from Old Jack wasn't free. The only reason why host obtained the card was because Old Jack owed Uncle Bob one, and he felt it right to help you now that he is gone. Meaning, host obtaining that card wasn't luck or Old Jack's kindness. It was Old Jack fulfilling his debts as promised. The Half-Fallen One helping host out seems to make sense after host shows the authority card. But, as host said, that ought to be the end of the relationship between the host and the Half-Fallen One. Yet here is host, in the Half-Fallen One's castle, being taken care of as if he is her lost son. That is truly suspicious in and of itself. The system guesses there's a hidden agenda somewhere that host is not aware of. But there's also the possibility of the Half-Fallen One simply being kind and wanting to follow completely through on her deal, making sure host achieves his goal of entering the academy just like promised with no problems, and hence the healing and care. For now, the system can't really tell much but will advise host to simply play along and tag along, finding out if the Half-Fallen One's motives are true, or if they hold a deeper contingency plan. The system's reasoning made Ryuk calm his steely nerves a little. Just like the system said, for now, he would play along and see where it all ends. Is the Half-Fallen One just being kind and following through on the deal, or does she still have something in mind for Ryuk that he wasn't aware of? That he would be finding out soon. I can feel my body is still somehow weak. I should go to rest now. Hey Isha. Ryuk called as he heard the sound of pilfering in the wardrobe. Isha stuck her head out. Don't go out the door. There are a lot of chefs down there, and they might mistake you for a runaway livestock. You get, Ryuk said, and, shocking to him, Isha actually looked at the closed door before she stuck out her tongue playfully and disappeared back into the cupboard. Wait, system, Does Isha actually understand me? Ryuk asked. Host must understand that Isha barely understood Host after its birth and could only feel emotions through its connected soul. But now, Isha has undergone what can be referred to as a mini-evolution and can fully understand Host's words, even though it is currently deprived of speech. The system explained, and Ryuk's eyes sparked. Wait, did you just say, currently deprived of speech? Do you mean? Yes. According to the system's scanning of Isha's bloodline, the system has learned that Isha's bloodline is pure enough for it to also be comparable to the bloodline of a higher serpentine race. According to the system's calculation, after Isha's true evolution, it should be capable of speech, and its intelligence might even rival that of Host's, if not surpass it. The system said, and Ryuk looked dumbfounded in front of him. The scenario couldn't help but appear in his head. The image of Isha calling him by his own name. Hey Ryuk, you goof. I think it's time to sleep. I've had enough shock for the past few days. Ryuk said as he threw the thoughts out of his mind and snuggled into the bedsheet. But even then, before his consciousness could disappear completely, an image appeared in his head. The image of a golden-haired boy with a beaming smile. Ah, Quinn. I almost forgot about him. So, you said this won't be our last meeting, huh? Then I, too, will be expecting the day we finally meet once more. Hopefully, you will be bigger and better than we both parted. Ryuk thought as his consciousness finally faded away, and he drifted into a deep slumber. How long will you keep running, little shadow? The voice slithered through the icy stillness, weaving itself into the wind that howled between towering pines. The trees stood like skeletal branches clawing at the leaden sky, their shadows dancing coherently on the snow-covered ground, warping under the falling light of a pale, dying moon above. Through the forest, a lone figure dashed, his steps frantic and erratic. He was cloaked in white, almost blending seamlessly with the wintry atmosphere. Ah! 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 His breaths came in ragged bursts, each exhalation clouding the air, frost clinging to his lashes, lips, and hair, and sinking into his lungs with every desperate inhale. He didn't know why he was running, only that he must. We're so close now, little shadow, the voice continued, soft yet cutting to the heart. Closer than your fragile mind dares to believe. Ah! A gasp escaped through the room as Ryuk jerked up from his bed, cold white air escaping his lungs. His hand unconsciously moved as he touched his chest, feeling his heart pumping madly. That dream, Ryuk mused with narrowed eyes, his gaze turning to look at the stream of cold air coming from his mouth. I've had that dream before, just when I wanted to leave Grade E with old Jack. Now it feels so real, Ryuk mused. He had sensed how cold that world in the dream was, and now his mouth was puffing out white air. He didn't understand what that was, but somehow Ryuk felt fear, a spine-tingling fear, greater than anything he had ever experienced, and while he had simply ignored it the last time as a bad dream, easily forgetting it, right now he could no longer do that. It seemed like whoever was chasing after him in that dream was now closer than ever. Don't worry about finding them, Ryuk, because they'll come to find you themselves. Uncle Bob's voice suddenly reappeared in Ryuk's head, and he exhaled loudly, his eyes closing before opening and flashing a dangerous light. I can't relax. I have to keep growing, Ryuk determined. He had been told by Uncle Bob that they'd be coming for him. Ryuk knew neither who they were nor how they would look. But if there's one thing, it would be that they would be overwhelmingly strong. He had thought that would be far off into the future, but now with the dream reappearing and chilling his heart so cold, he doubted it would take too long from now. Whatever it might be, it would be better if he kept growing stronger as fast as he could, just like how Uncle Bob had advised. What you need to do is beat their expectations. Grow beyond what they thought was possible. That is your only chance, Ryuk. If I'm to accomplish that, then I can't be relaxing now. Just because the test has ended doesn't slow those people down. I need to grow. I need to keep growing. I can't relax. I can't stop now, Ryuk said, as a sense of urgency wrapped around his head, and to that extent he decided. Looking at his chest, he could see Isha's long body wrapped around him, seemingly asleep. But it occasionally twisted lazily, revealing it must be awake, just feeling a little drowsy and not wanting to open its eyes. "Hey system, I've decided to use the evolutionary card now," Ryuk muttered, and immediately the notification flashed before his gaze. Finally! Host, listen carefully. Firstly, host should navigate to the Pets tab, the system said, and Ryuk quickly arrived before the tabs, and he chose the Pets tab. Immediately he chose that. It appeared. Pets, 1. Space for new pets, 0. Does host wish to access the stats of the current pets? The question came and he nodded. Pets interface. Name, Isha Null. Race, Ice Serpent. Current growth phase, Ice Python. Grade, Grade C lower. So Isha's cultivation stage is Grade C lower, huh? That is the peak stage of the plane of ascension. Isha is now as strong as each of the top 10 ultimate geniuses. No wonder it easily blocked Ignatius's full ability without suffering any wounds at all. Ryuk mused as he looked at the stats. But that wasn't all. Pet's abilities. Ability name, Ice and Frost Manipulation. Description: the ability to manipulate ice and frost with incredible precision and shape them into sharp projectiles. By channeling Apex energy, Isha can lower the temperature of the surrounding area, causing frost to form on the ground, walls, or even enemies, and even stop attacks by encasing them in ice and reducing their effectiveness. The intensity of the frost can range from light ice to a bone-chilling freeze capable of immobilizing foes. Additional effects. Frostbite Aura. Prolonged exposure to the icy presence can slow enemies, reducing their speed and reaction time. Ice Weaponry. The ability to craft weapons like icy spikes or blades to attack or defend. Ability name, Size Manipulation. Description: the ability of Isha to control its size, expanding its body up to a towering 4 meters for increased physical dominance or shrinking to a compact 1 meter for agility and stealth. This flexibility allows adaptation to various combat scenarios or environments, making it versatile and unpredictable. Additional effects. Enlarged form. Increased strength and durability when fully expanded. Contracted form. Enhanced speed and precision when minimized. Ability name, Frost Veil. Description: the ability to envelop itself in a shimmering, frosty mist that obscures its presence and freezes anything that comes too close. The veil acts as both a defensive mechanism and an offensive threat, making it difficult for enemies to land direct hits while gradually weakening them from the cold. Additional effects. Frost Cloak. Reduces visibility for enemies, making it harder to track movements. Chill Aura. The freezing mist saps the strength of nearby foes, reducing their stamina and energy over time. Next, Evolutionary Path. Available. Evolutionary Path Model. 1. Ice Serpent, superseded. 2. Ice Python, currently achieved. 3. Frost Wyvern, next evolution. 4. Frost Hydra, yet to achieve. 5. Ice WYRM, yet to achieve. 6. Ice Dragon, peak evolutionary model. Evolutionary card possessed. 1. Does host wish to use the evolutionary card to evolve Isha from an Ice Python to Frost Wyvern? Can I see a form of growth that will happen after Isha's evolution to a Frost Wyvern? Ryuk suddenly asked. If he was going to make Isha go through a complete evolutionary change, then he, of course, wanted to see the strength that would happen and gauge if it would be positive or negative. Although being able to gain one of Isha's abilities was already a good use of the evolutionary card, that wasn't considered important to Isha's future state by Ryuk. Of course, the system can show host the description and abilities of Isha's current Ice Python form and what it would become after evolving into a Frost Wyvern. Would host like such a guide to be shown now? Yes. Ice Python, current evolutionary state. Description: a larger and more muscular form of the ice serpent, with thicker, glacial pattern scales. It is slower but much stronger, capable of crushing foes while exuding intense cold. Abilities. 1. Advanced Frost Manipulation. Enhanced control over frost and ice elements. 2. Ice Aura. A chilling field that freezes nearby surroundings. 3. Constricting Grip. Enhanced physical power to immobilize foes. Size. Grows up to 5 meters. Frost Wyvern Next Evolutionary Path. The Frost Wyvern marks a significant evolutionary leap from the Ice Python, introducing aerial capabilities, enhanced frost manipulation, and greater battlefield versatility. Below are its abilities with clear distinctions from the Ice Python. 1. Glacial Breath. Description: a concentrated blast of frost energy that can freeze enemies solid or create obstacles of ice in the environment. Difference: the Ice Python relied on close-range attacks like its Constricting Grip and Frost Aura. The Frost Wyvern gains a ranged attack, allowing it to freeze enemies from a distance. The breath is powerful enough to freeze running water, form icy barriers, or slow down entire groups of foes with its wide area of effect. 2. Ice Spikes. Description: the Frost Wyvern can summon and launch sharp, crystalline ice projectiles with precision. These spikes can penetrate armor and cause frostbite on impact. Difference: the Ice Python was a physical combatant, using its body and Frost Aura for damage. The Frost Wyvern gains a ranged offensive capability, making it more adaptable to different combat scenarios. The spikes can be launched in rapid succession, turning the Frost Wyvern into a deadly ranged attacker. 3. Glacial Glide. Description: although not capable of full flight, the Frost Wyvern can glide using its crystalline wings. This allows it to cover long distances quickly, reposition itself in combat, and attack from above. Difference: the Ice Python was ground-bound, limited to slithering for mobility. The Frost Wyvern gains aerial mobility, making it far harder to pin down or attack. This newfound height advantage allows it to rain down frost attacks or escape unfavorable ground-based encounters. 4. Frost Armor. Description: the Frost Wyvern scales are fortified with a natural frost armor, which absorbs and deflects physical attacks while simultaneously freezing anything that comes into prolonged contact with it. Difference: the Ice Python relied on thicker scales and its Constricting Grip for defense. The Frost Wyvern's frost armor adds an active layer of protection that damages attackers. Enemies striking the Frost Wyvern risk frostbite or freezing their weapons, making it harder to land effective hits. 5. Icy Precision. Description: the Frost Wyvern gains greater control over its frost manipulation, allowing it to form and shape ice with fine precision. It can create detailed ice structures like walls, spikes, or traps. Difference: the Ice Python could emit frost but lacked the precision to shape it into structures. The Frost Wyvern becomes a tactical manipulator, capable of creating environmental advantages. For example, it can create icy platforms to leap from, barriers to block attacks, or sharp traps to immobilize enemies. 6. Capability of speech and vastly increased intelligence. Advantages of the Frost Wyvern over the Ice Python. The Frost Wyvern is a versatile evolution that combines aerial mobility, ranged attacks, and refined frost manipulation, making it a superior form to the Ice Python in both offense and defense. It sets the stage for the next evolutionary leaps by introducing dragon-like traits such as wings, breath attacks, and tactical intelligence. With the detailed explanation from the system, Ryuk's doubts faded away into thin air. Comparing the Ice Python to a Frost Wyvern was like comparing an infant to an adult. It was a very clear and undeniable growth. Immediately, his drowsiness disappeared into thin ashes as he exhaled loudly before turning to look at Isha, who looked at him as if sensing his desire to say a word. "Let me ask, how many days will it take for Isha's evolution?" Ryuk asked. "The system cannot say for sure, as that is based on Isha's bloodline purity. The purer, the faster. Still, host can look at a week to 2 weeks at most." The system said, "I'm sorry, Isha, but I'm afraid I must require you to grow stronger for us both," Ryuk stated as Isha twisted its head, looking up at him with curious eyes, before its tongue flicked out, rubbing all over Ryuk's face and leaving some ice drops over his face. In the next instant, Isha disappeared, seemingly having returned to the pet world, and Ryuk's consciousness dispersed also as he moved into the pet world. Host need not feel like he is forcing his pet to undergo evolution. Mutated beasts kill anything on sight once they see the ability for themselves to evolve. If it's a fruit that can do that, they would kill even their own just to obtain it. For Isha to gain free evolution from the system is already a blessing to it. If anything, Isha is more grateful to Host than anyone. At the end of the evolution, Host's bond with Isha vastly increases even more, the system stated as Ryuk hummed, looking at Isha, who seemed more than excited. It seemed the system was right. Okay then, use evolutionary card, Ryuk ordered. Immediately as he said this, a bright light lit up on Isha's forehead, as the image of crystalline wings appeared. The same could be said of Ryuk, who had the symbol appear in his eyes instead. Staring at Isha's evolutionary wings, the one in Ryuk's eyes brightened up to become a flashing bulb of light. He watched as Isha's consciousness slowly slipped and it started wrapping itself up. Immediately, blue energy spilled forth from Isha's forehead, forming a cocoon of light around her and wrapping it up completely until Isha became covered from Ryuk's sight. Evolutionary card has been successfully used. Evolution of Host's pet from an ice python to a frost wyvern has successfully begun, the system said, as Ryuk's consciousness faded away from the pet world and returned to the room. Congratulations on Host using the evolutionary card. Host can now gain a single ability from the pet's array of abilities. What would Host like to obtain? 1. Frost manipulation. 2. Size manipulation. To choose between frost manipulation or size manipulation, was it even a choice at all? I choose to obtain the frost manipulation, Ryuk said, and immediately, he felt a strange warmth of energy emanating from his heart, soon pumping throughout his entire body. Involuntarily, he felt his own body grow stronger, though not physically, but it was clear something had changed. In the next instant, Ryuk raised his hands, and he watched in amusement as frost began emanating from his fingers. Soon, it formed a ball of ice in the air, and suddenly it began twisting, flattening, and elongating until a snowy dagger appeared in Ryuk's arms, with sharp edges streaming with cold aura. Congratulations, Host has successfully awakened the skill. Ice/frost manipulation, the system said as Ryuk threw the dagger upward. With a simple will, the dagger hung in the air, spinning around Ryuk's head before suddenly jerking forward toward his neck, stopping an inch away from piercing through. I can't believe it. I can easily form ice weapons so effortlessly. I thought learning ice manipulation would take a bit of practice. Ryuk mused, and the notification flashed once more. If an individual awakens an ability, they would barely be able to make use of it, just like how Host had been barely able to use Frost Veil the first time he received it. But when an ability is obtained from the pets due to an evolutionary change, Host need not practice that ability. Host's comprehension of it will be at the same level as the pet before its evolution. So right now, Host is displaying the same amount of control that Isha currently has. There's no need for Host to start practicing it from the basics. That has already been done by Isha for Host. This is, again, an advantage of being a beast tamer, the perks of receiving all of the beast's comprehension. The system explained lengthily as Ryuk's eyes flashed. In the next instant, he raised both hands to the air, and a chilling cold energy began appearing from his fingers. Soon, snow daggers were being formed until a total of about a dozen appeared in the room. With a simple will, Ryuk made them levitate around him, striking at different angles with unpredictability and power. This was just what Ignatius had done. Turn his flames into weapons that can act as shields and also fight opponents. If I had this back then, perhaps I wouldn't have needed to be running around the battle stage and would have simply responded with my own ice daggers, Ryuk murmured, but soon his ears twitched and quickly, all of the ice daggers in the room faded into thin air as his hands stopped oozing with ice, returning back to normal. Deactivate system interface. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking resounded in the room. Come in, Ryuk called, and a figure stepped into the room. It was none other than Morgaine, wearing a green hooded shirt and baggy green trousers with small zips at the lower ends. "You awake?" she said as she walked toward Ryuk, her hands stretching forth to touch his forehead and check his temperature. But her hand missed at the last second as Ryuk swerved from her path, rolling down from his bed and stretching his back. "My temperature is back to normal now," Ryuk stated as Morgaine harumphed. "You dickhead. Growing some balls, huh? I want to check how it is myself, not have you tell me. That's the order from my mom, and I kept it up throughout your unconsciousness," Morgaine said with a cold harumph as Ryuk chuckled. "Ah, don't worry. I'm fine now, and I don't want you getting addicted to touching me. Addiction is a real thing, you know?" Ryuk said with a serious face as Morgaine laughed mockingly before responding. "I wouldn't get addicted to touching you. Not even if I was forced for 1,000,000 years to touch you every day. Well, I too wouldn't want a person's hand rubbing over my body for 1,000,000 years. So I guess we're both good, no? TCH, dickhead. Talk about a bad way to start a peaceful morning," Morgaine said with a click of her tongue as she revealed the hand placed behind her and threw something at Ryuk. He caught it before it could slam into his face, earning an unsatisfied glare from Morgaine. "Anyway, change into that. You've been wearing that for close to a week or so now," Morgaine said as Ryuk turned his attention to the clothes he was wearing and remembered. He wasn't wearing the same clothes during his battle with Ignatius because they had almost been burned off completely. Yet here he was, donning a new patient-like cloth, and his face grew completely red. That half-fallen one must have changed for him, and if so, she must have seen everything, Ryuk thought, his balls shriveling within his pants. "TSH, I can't wait to get out of this place." Ryuk's hand dipped into the long bag and brought the contents within, revealing a sweater just like Morgaine's but white in color instead, along with fitting baggy white trousers. "Thanks for the clothes, Morgaine. And why white?" Ryuk couldn't help but ask as Morgaine chuckled. "I've seen your dressings throughout the school. You've never once worn a cloth with another color, and so I guessed you must have a thing with the color white." "Who could have guessed I was right?" Morgaine said, placing her hands over her lips as she watched the sparkle in Ryuk's eyes when he looked at the white hoodie. "Anyway, I hope you don't like the color white because you think in your heart you're a saint? You're not. You're a dickhead," Morgaine said as he shrugged. "No, I don't think saints exist. At least, I haven't seen one before." He had noticed how she always used that nickname for him almost all the time, and he wondered when he earned such a prestigious title from her. "Because that's what you are, a dickhead." Okay then. But the mighty fallen princess using such low words. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Such lack of nice feminine manners is a shame. Isn't it? Ryuk said as Morgaine's eyes dilated. She punched forward in Ryuk's direction, but like a snake, he moved away from the path and disappeared into the bathroom, locking the door. You dickhead. Ryuk only needed a little more than 20 minutes before exiting the bathroom, this time donning the white hoodie shirt and trousers. Morgaine sat on the fluffy sofa in the room, her hands scrolling on the device, but she soon raised her head to him, pausing in shock as she looked at him dumbly for a long while. How handsome. Right now, the boy before her was devastatingly handsome, with fluffy white hair that was blindingly white, every strand shimmering with clarity under the light. His eyelashes were also covered in the same white, contrasting with his pair of ruby red and blue gemstone-like eyes, creating an even more baffling and mysterious aura around him. The Fallens were known for their beauty, and she had truly met hundreds of fallen males, the best amongst them, who had tried to gain her favor. But none came close to the beauty of Ryuk. His aura of cute naivety made her want to pinch his cheeks. Ryuk couldn't help but pause as he slowly turned his head behind him, wondering if there was a ghost. But he found nothing. The reaction finally jerked Morgaine back to reality, as a slight shade of pink appeared on her face, disappearing just as quickly as it came. She said out loud, "Your hair, it's whiter than before. And what's with the white eyelashes?" Ryuk moved his hands to his eyelashes, brushing them, feeling cracks of ice rain down before they quickly condensed once more. A side effect of obtaining frost manipulation, just like how Host's body oozed snow after the first stage of obtaining the ability. Perhaps it'll clear away soon, the system thoughtfully explained as Ryuk shrugged his shoulders. He opened his lips only for cold, white air to ooze out. Pointing to it, he said, "Well, ice is my ability, so it makes sense, no?" While walking to the window, Morgaine had already seen Ryuk's battle with Ignatius, and he had revealed his ice control ability with the use of Frost Veil. So, it somehow made sense to her, and she nodded. "Hey, Morgaine." "Hey, Ryuk." Both of them suddenly called out at the same time before turning to look at each other with raised eyebrows. "Go on first," Morgaine said as Ryuk asked. "I was wondering, is there some sort of library here in the castle?" "A library? What do you need that for?" she replied, raising a curious eyebrow at Ryuk. "Not much. I've just been stuck at the plane of origin for a long while now. Seems like I'll need to learn how to form something called the Apex Realm before I break through to the next stage. I need a book explaining the formation of the Apex Realm, and I was wondering if the castle library would have one." Ryuk explained as Morgaine nodded, a bit of disappointment flashing in her eyes. "I already had plans for us, you goof," she thought but explained. "Yes, there's a library. My mom is a nerd, you see, so she has this crazy weird hall just right down the steps below. You can't miss those large golden doors unless you're a dickhead," she explained, not forgetting to rub a bit of it on Ryuk's face. But his skin was already thick enough for that, and he headed out of the room. "TCH, dickhead. He didn't even ask what I wanted to say," Morgaine said with a huff as she locked her gaze onto her device, browsing through interface after interface. Just like Morgaine had said, it didn't take long for Ryuk to find the gigantic golden gate down the castle hall. It stood close to the ceiling, about 7 meters in height. It was grandiose and was surprisingly the only structure in the entire hall that didn't have fallen guards standing before it. Pressing a hand on it, a ripple of golden energy swam up the door, and then, "Goyum!" With a very loud noise, it opened up as Ryuk stepped into the hall. There were gems all over the walls and ceilings, filtering the entire room with a glow of golden and white. They were pure streams of mana that moved across the room, tingling against Ryuk's skin and calming his heart. All over the walls were large rows and rows of shelves, holding books that were strangely free of dust. Rows of seats covered the middle area of the library, about a couple dozen, leaving much space in the hall. Step, step, step. Every step of Ryuk resonated through the entire hall, golden energy spreading like a ripple into the distance, causing the floor to brighten a bit with each step he took. "I can't believe it. Such a design in a library." Ryuk mused under his breath as he walked towards one of the shelves, his hands brushing through various books. There were tags on every one of the bookshelves, such as Rune Craftsmanship, Domain Expansions Records, Fallen Origin, World Exterminations, Artifact Creation, Artifact Records. The books on the insanely titled shelves numbered close to thousands, making it a bit overwhelming to Ryuk. But surprisingly, after just 3 minutes of walking, he found the shelf he wanted. Beginning Cultivation Records. A little browsing and his eyes caught a title. He moved his hand upwards, standing on his toes and successfully picking up the book. Its title was all that Ryuk needed to confirm he'd found what he was looking for, and it was none other than the Apex Realm Compendium. Quickly, he found a random seat in the library, taking his place and exhaling loudly as he cleared away his thoughts. The entire world seemed to fade away once Ryuk stilled his mind, and calmly, he opened up the page, ready to allow comprehension to flood his mind. And quickly, the book dove into its subject. What is the Apex Realm? The Apex Realm Compendium. Unlocking the Foundation of Ascension. This was what was written in the preface, and without wasting any more time, Ryuk swerved to the next page. The Apex Realm is the crystallized manifestation of a cultivator's essence, beliefs, and power. It serves as the bridge between the origin plane and the plane of ascension, unlocking unparalleled potential. Upon reaching the plane of dominion, the apex realm evolves into a tangible domain expansion, a personal world where the cultivators will reign supreme. The apex realm is both a reflection of the cultivator's soul and a reservoir of power. It defines the cultivator's abilities, their understanding of their apex energy, and the scope of their influence over reality. So the apex realm really is the physical manifestation of the domain expansion. If so, then Ignatius' magma-covered domain must have been the manifestation of his personal apex realm. Ryuk mused silently to himself before moving to the next page. Every apex realm is unique, shaped by the cultivator's experiences, energy affinity, and goals. However, they can be categorized into three primary types. 1. Elemental realms. Rooted in elemental apex energy such as ice, fire, lightning, or shadow. Example: a frost realm where all within are subjected to extreme cold, enhancing ice-related abilities while freezing enemies in their tracks. Or Ignatius realm, where everything is incredibly hot and burns everything away. Ryuk mused to himself. The arcs of Ignatius' battle were fresh in his mind, and it kind of made the book even more comprehensible. 2. Conceptual realms. Based on abstract concepts like time, gravity, or space. Example: a temporal realm where time flows at the cultivator's will, enabling faster attacks or freezing enemies mid-movement. This somehow resembles Morgaine's domain, but I can't be very sure. 3. Manifestation realms. These realms blend multiple elements or concepts to create unique landscapes. Example: a storm haven that combines lightning and wind to create a chaotic battlefield where the cultivator wields unmatched control. If the manifestation realm is the blend of the two other realms, then it must no doubt be the strongest of the realms. Ryuk mused, and he soon swerved to the next page. The apex realm is formed within the apex core, the cultivator's internal reservoir of power, located deep within their spiritual sea. This core is linked to the cultivator's soul and shaped by their deepest understanding of their apex energy. The apex core is located within the primordial gate, which acts as the gateway for gathering and refining essence energy into apex energy. It serves as the central hub of a cultivator's spiritual and energy system. Here's a breakdown of the connection. Apex core va primordial gate relationship. 1. Primordial gate, the foundation of a cultivator's spiritual framework. Draws essence energy from the surrounding environment and refines it into apex energy. Acts as a conduit between the cultivator and the universe, channeling raw energy inward. 2. Apex core. Nestled within the depths of the primordial gate, it acts as the reservoir and processing center for apex energy. Stores the refined energy, serving as the source for all cultivation techniques, breakthroughs, and the creation of the apex realm. 3. Energy flow. Essence energy enters through the primordial gate, refined into apex energy within the gate's inner mechanisms. Stored and stabilized in the apex core, ready for utilization or further refinement into specialized forms of energy, such as elemental energy or domain energy. Why is the apex core in the primordial gate? The primordial gate is the cultivator's link to the cosmic forces of the universe. Placing the apex core within ensures: 1. Seamless energy conversion. Direct access to the flow of essence energy ensures efficient conversion and refinement. 2. Protection. The gate's natural defenses safeguard the core from internal instability or external disruption. 3. Spiritual integration. Being located within the primordial gate ensures the apex core is directly connected to their soul and intent. So the apex realm can only be formed in the apex core. And the apex core itself is located in the primordial gate. I already have the primordial gate, so my apex core is already in there. I just need to search for it. This is easier than I thought, Ryuk said with flashing eyes before continuing. The formation of the apex realm requires clarity of will, absolute understanding of one's path, energy resonance, synchronization between the apex energy and the cultivator's intent, mental fortitude, the ability to visualize and hold the framework of the apex realm without breaking under pressure. Steps to form an apex realm. Step 1. Deep meditation. Enter a meditative state to access your spiritual sea. Observe the raw apex energy swirling within your apex core. Step 2. Conceptualization. Decide on the theme of your apex realm. This is the foundation upon which your realm will be built. Ask yourself, what defines my power? What environment empowers me most? How do I want to dominate my foes? Step 3. Realm framework creation. Channel apex energy into your apex core and visualize the framework of your realm. This requires intense focus and creativity. For example, for an ice apex realm, imagine an endless frozen tundra or a citadel of glacial power. For a lightning apex realm, visualize a storm-filled sky with relentless bolts of energy. Step 4. Stabilization. Once the framework is formed, infuse it with energy repeatedly to stabilize its structure. This process can take days or even weeks. Distractions or doubts can destabilize the realm, leading to failure. Step 5. Activation. When the apex realm feels stable, push a surge of energy through your apex core, forcing the realm to activate. This marks the completion of your apex realm and the gateway to the initial plane of ascension. Phew, now this is a bit complex. I'll need days during which I can't afford distractions. Ryuk thought, but he pushed away all doubting thoughts, choosing to move to the next page. 1. Energy saturation. Fill your apex core with energy until it cannot hold more. This will create the breakthrough pressure needed for ascension. 2. Realm plane synchronization. Synchronize your apex realm with the natural laws of the universe, aligning its energy with the cosmic flow. This creates a harmonious bridge to the plane of ascension. 3. Breakthrough point. Direct all the energy in your apex core to the boundary of your apex realm. Acknowledge the resistance and shatter it with a decisive push, allowing your apex realm to expand outward into it. 4. Plane entry. Upon breaking through, your apex realm will become the foundation for your power in the plane of ascension. Your apex energy will evolve, becoming purer and more potent.
Final note, Apex Realm và Dominion.
The apex realm lays the groundwork for the plane of dominion, where it manifests physically as a domain expansion. This is where the cultivator truly asserts their will, bending the environment to their advantage and unleashing their full potential. The apex realm is not just a milestone. It is the essence of what makes a cultivator extraordinary. Guard it, grow it, and let it lead you to unparalleled heights. Ho! A loud sigh of relief left Ryuk's lips as he swerved to the end of the book, finding nothing but the hardcover that fully shut the book closed. The information he had gleaned was like glue seeping into his brain. As Ryuk closed his eyes, the pictures of the notes began reappearing one by one over his head. The process continued again and again until he felt the information completely glue itself into his mind. I have gotten what I want. Now is the time to put it into play, he mused as he opened his eyes and looked around the room. It would have been nice if there was some meditation room in the castle, and Ryuk could guess there was probably one. But to go back upstairs and ask that from Morgaine seemed like too much hassle. He wanted to get this done right here and now, and in the end, Ryuk decided to use the library for his cultivation process. The mana here was abundant, comparable to the special cultivation rooms in the Arisen Hall because it was the home of the Half-Fallen One. All Ryuk needed was a bit of focus, not any fancy special cultivation room or some luxury futon. And since this was the library, and knowing Morgaine didn't seem like the one to suddenly pop down and come read, and with the Half-Fallen One not being around, it was Ryuk's best chance to own the place for himself. Shifting the book to the side, he straightened up on his seat as both of his hands moved into each other and rested upon the golden table. With a quiet and peaceful inhale and exhale, he closed his eyes and his consciousness began fading away into nothing, soon appearing before the gigantic red-blue door. The door radiated an awe-inspiring power, and it was none other than Ryuk's primordial gate. Even though he had seen this door not once or twice, but many times now, it still struck at his heart. Advancing forth, Ryuk's hand moved to touch the primordial gate and then, gruum. It parted open for him as he stepped into it, finding nothing but an endless land of grassy plains before him, at the middle of which was still the cocoon that housed Isha. But Ryuk only glanced a little before focusing on the task. I'm now in the primordial gate. In this place, there lies my apex core in wait. But this place seems almost endless. How am I supposed to find the apex core within here? He mused under his breath, but his eyes soon flashed as his brain hinted at something. Right now, as Ryuk stood in the space, there was mana around him, cold ice apex energy. And with a little bit of work, Ryuk soon found out something. The ice apex energy has varying different levels of concentration in the primordial gate. The apex core is said to be nestled within the depths of the primordial gate, and it acts as a reservoir and processor of apex energy. If the apex core stores the refined energy, then obviously, mana leaks out of it, permeating the pet world and acting as a conduit for Isha to obtain mana due to my special ability class as a beast tamer. If the concentration of mana is different, then somehow, that must mean the thicker the concentration of mana in an area, the higher the chance that there is a possibility of the apex core being present in that area. Ryuk mused, his brain piecing together various information and giving him a way through. Without wasting any more time, Ryuk began sprinting forward into the distance. He had easily found that the deeper he headed into the primordial gate, the more he felt the mana concentration increasing. Perhaps at the end of it he would find the apex core lying in wait. After endless hours of running, Ryuk soon began noticing something different. Never once had he delved this deep into his primordial gate, which of course also housed his pet world. He only ever looked at the endless grassy plains before he left the realm. But now, as Ryuk walked deeper and deeper, he soon began to notice that the endless grassy plains were fading away into nothing. What was revealed after that was an endless area of dark void, concealing bizarre blue constellations that flashed in the upper sky. Ryuk couldn't help but stop at the sight as he stared behind him, finding the almost fading grassy plains. And with a bit of consideration to settle his nerves, he moved into this void of space. This space seemed to hold endless depths, yet Ryuk felt the ground beneath him solid, even though there was nothing but darkness beneath him. He quickly began running straight into the distance, running past countless amounts of constellations before he finally arrived at the end of the place. The sight before Ryuk shook his heart. At the end of his primordial gate was no single apex core. It was a humongous tree, whose half was lined with purple dark energy that trailed down it, seemingly giving it a dark, preternatural aura of death. Yet, at the other side of the humongous tree was a blue energy that floated around the branches, giving the tree some bit of life. Somehow, the color difference reminded Ryuk of his primordial gate, whose color also shifted into a differentiated blue and dark hue. What is this? Why do I have a tree at the end of my primordial gate? He mused without understanding. The manual had never talked of any tree, but soon his eyes flashed as he felt ice-cold apex energy erupt into his face, and he turned his head up. From the dried branches of the tree, there was a single branch that leaned toward the blue area of the tree, and that branch was completely covered in icy cold blue energy. At the end of the branch was a single object, a large ice-cold blue gem that radiated the purest essence of ice apex energy Ryuk had ever seen. It was like this was the ultimate true essence of all of his ice apex energy. So this is it. This is my apex core. But, how come it's just only on a single branch, and there seem to be thousands of branches all around? Ryuk had been able to pick up something from what the system had told him and from what he had observed during his preliminary tests. The first thing Ryuk had noticed was his race. In the system's description, it had stated that he was a null and an unknown other creature. While Ryuk didn't know what the other race was, he at least knew one thing, and that was that there were two varying racial bloodlines flowing through his veins. He was an hybrid of a null and some other race. Perhaps that is why everything about me is in two colors. My eyes are in two colors, crimson-colored right eye and blue-colored left eye. But somehow, I also don't have real eyes, so one might be able to call that as not counting. Perhaps it was just Uncle Bob's own designs. But then my primordial gate is in two colors, blue and pitch black. Somehow, I can guess that intense dark is my null bloodline. On the contrary, the blue light radiates a beautiful aura of life. I don't know what race's aura is so pure, but I can guess that it's my second bloodline. What confirms this to me is that meeting I had in the preliminary test where I met with those strange Ryuks. One of them was covered in pitch-dark scales and radiated an intense vile aura. I can guess that is one of my bloodlines, the null bloodline to be exact. The nulls are said to be the evilest of all races on Endearth. The dark Ryuk radiated that chillingness without any doubt. But then there is the chill blue Ryuk. I don't know what power it has or what it is, but he is undoubtedly powerful. Intensely more powerful than the null bloodline, even though I still have no idea what he is based on how he looks. Yet somehow, the existence of those Ryuks finally confirmed it to me, that I really must be a hybrid. But then that also begs the question. If I'm a hybrid, why did I never awaken the abilities or elements tied to my two bloodlines? If I have a null bloodline, why did I never awaken a null ability? If I have an unknown powerful bloodline, then why did I never awaken another powerful unknown ability? For now, the only power I possess is that of beast taming, which is integrated from the system. Beast taming is never my true power or element. And now this tree is divided into two. Somehow I feel, deep in my heart, that I should have two apex cores. One of the apex cores should house the mana of my dark null bloodline and come out of this branch leaning towards the dark side of the tree. And as for the blue side of the tree, my apex core should also be there, housing the mana of that racial existence. But right now, there's only a single branch here, and it is smartly coming out from the place that is at the middle of the blue and dark branches. Ryuk stated to himself as he looked at the ice branch's source and found it standing in between. Not fully on the blue side of the tree, not fully on the dark side either. It was like a separate entity of its own. And what was surprising to Ryuk was that even though it had very little space, literally thrown into the middle of both trees, there were more than one single branch emanating from the space. One of the branches had his ice apex core, but the other branches were present, though they were dead. If the ice apex energy only took a single branch, Ryuk muttered. Does that mean from the other branches, there could be a possibility of me awakening them with new attributes one day? What if one day, I contract a fire element beast? Would that mean another tree branch would light up with a fire core that will be one of these dormant branches? If so, then how is that supposed to work? Everyone else can only control a single attribute, but I can control the attributes of my contracted beasts. Then what if I had 100 contracted beasts? Would that mean I could control 100 abilities? But that isn't what is important. If I form the Apex Realm from the Apex Core, then I would obtain a single domain. But what if I manage to light up all the branches on this tree, based on my contracted beasts' elements? Fire, wind, earth. Does that mean I will eventually be able to form an Earth Apex Realm, a Fire Apex Realm, and in so doing a Fire Domain, an Earth Domain, and an Ice Domain? Then that means I will possess more than one domain? One domain itself is already overpowering. And now, it seems I have the potential to possess more than one. Ryuk's brain worked at full speed as he rumbled on, but then he threw the thought to the side. All of this was nothing but conjecture and time wasting. In the future, he would know all about it, but for now, he might as well focus on the purpose of why he was here today. Looking at the single branch that had the Ice Apex Core, Ryuk slowly stretched out his hands as he gently placed them on the Ice Apex Core. In the next instant, a different feeling surged through Ryuk. It was the feeling of being taken somewhere even deeper into himself. And when he opened his eyes, Ryuk found himself in a blank world of silhouettes. The world was the size of a mini-hall, and somehow, Ryuk looked beneath him as he found shadows cast onto the ground. It was the shadow of tall mountains even though there were no mountains, and he could feel cold, frosty air blowing through the area. This is my Apex Realm. It is already forming by itself, Ryuk mused, seeing the frosty wind and mountain silhouettes. With these two things, he already has a sense of what his realm would at least look like. It would be a world of long, endless, lonely mountains, all covered by frost like snowy mountainous landscapes. I can see it. My own domain already. Ryuk mused decisively, but his face changed into intense tension when everything around him suddenly collapsed into pieces, and Ryuk's eyes snapped open, revealing the library room. I got thrown out. Endurance 0. The red system notification flashed before Ryuk, who exhaled loudly, cold air erupting from his lungs. His heart was weakly pumping within his chest, seemingly in exhaustion, and he felt his entire body incredibly heavy. The host has been gone now for a total of 28 hours. Whatever the host seems to be doing while being unconscious takes a lot of mana and endurance away. Host, please do not repeat that, as there is a possibility of your body collapsing afterward, the system said as Ryuk furrowed his eyebrows. But I need to form the Apex Realm. I haven't even started yet, and I already ran out of endurance. Ryuk thought to himself, but then suddenly, and 28 hours already. That's a day gone. Seems like you need a little help. The voice suddenly echoed through the entire hall as his body instantly froze up, and he slowly raised his head, finding the figure of someone before him. It was none other than the half-fallen herself, donning a long silvery robe, spectacles on her face, and a small booklet which she seemed to have been reading. She had seemingly been in the library for quite a while, and Ryuk had zero idea. The half-fallen one, he called as he tried to get on one knee, but then felt his motions freeze up, stopping him from completing that. I can already sense the reverence in your heart, so if we're just alone, there's no need to bow. That said, you seem to be having the problem of breaking through the plane of ascension. Grumbling Morgaine told me how you ignored her and went into a frozen mode, leaving her lonely, the half-fallen one said as she slowly turned her gaze up. I didn't say that, Mom. You liar. Morgaine's loud scream rang out from above as the half-fallen one chuckled before turning to Ryuk, looking at the book beside him, and then back at him. So, tell me, have you found the Apex Realm at least? She asked, and Ryuk nodded. I can see it already, the space and the silhouettes, but I haven't yet begun forming it consciously before everything shattered, Ryuk stated. Normally, for individuals to break through to the plane of ascension, they would undergo what is commonly referred to as a seclusion. Housing themselves in a mana-filled room, they would form the Apex Realm. When they get tired or run out of mana, they wake up, only to absorb more mana, and then return to form the Apex Realm. This takes long hours of focus, and after a few days, they successfully form the Apex Realm, moving into the plane of ascension. The library has an abundant amount of mana, but that is just the mana remnants from my wings. That's not enough, the half-fallen one said as Ryuk opened his mouth in shock, only to close it, then open it again. The mana in the hall is all from your wings. So much mana only leaks from the wings? He asked in shock. The mana right now in the library seemed to have increased by tenfold since when he had arrived previously, yet she was saying those were only leaks from the wings. Don't fall for it, Ryuk. She's not a god yet. Morgaine's jealous roar echoed out from above once more as the half-fallen one rolled her eyes. Let me lead you to a more cultivation-focused place. And you control ice, right? The fallen one asked as she slowly moved out of the library, and Ryuk rose up, hurriedly placing the book where he had taken it from, before following after her with a quiet, yes reply. Are you sure you want to immediately start the breakthrough now, though? It takes a long amount of time. Hopefully, there is nothing you plan on doing for now. The half-fallen one asked as they both climbed up the steps, and Ryuk shook his head. No, I don't. I just want to break through. Quickly, they both arrived at the foot of the steps, where a unique door stood. Mere centimeters away from the door, and Ryuk could already feel the overabundant amount of mana in the air. Stepping into the place, they came before a lonely golden-tiled room, which held a pool in the middle of it, brimming with condensed blue energy. This is an Apex Mana Radiance Pool. It's special amongst the rest because it doesn't change the potential of the body, nor heal it, but condenses large amounts of mana from the entire area into itself, forming a pool of mana. And it converts this mana into the mana energy of the one who enters it. This room hasn't been used in a week now, so the energy should be more than enough for your breakthrough, the half-fallen one explained. And your fallen one is sure she wants me to use this for free? Ryuk couldn't help but ask, feeling a bit of doubt. He didn't know why, but he felt this room was very important and should be a treasure that is rare to come by. And now, here it was before him. Couldn't help but create a feeling of undeserving in his heart. Don't worry, it's just like any other cultivation room anywhere. If it empties now, it only takes a week to get back to this level, and it remains so until someone else uses it. So it's fine, the half-fallen one said, and Ryuk could only give a nod of appreciation as the half-fallen one turned back. Well then, get on with it. Hopefully, by the time you exit, you would have achieved your goal, she said as she moved out of the place and gently shut the door. Now it was just Ryuk alone in the golden room, the pool calmly waiting for him. And without wasting any more time, Ryuk took off his shirt and trousers, leaving the pants on him and slowly walked down into the pool, dipping his body into it and kneeling on the ground. The pool, in his kneeling position, managed to submerge Ryuk up to his neck, and immediately loud notifications began buzzing out. Mana 20. Host has recovered +1 mana. Host has recovered +1 mana. Host has recovered +1 mana. Host has recovered +1 endurance point. Host has recovered +1 endurance point. Host has recovered +1 endurance point. This truly is the perfect space. Now, I'll be forming my apex realm and breaking through to the plane of ascension. With his endurance and mana being recovered so fast, Ryuk felt his newfound worry of not enough mana and endurance fading away into thin air, and quickly, he settled into unconsciousness once more, arriving before his primordial gate. Quickly going in, he sprinted forward even faster this time, soon appearing before the humongous tree, and he laid his hands on the ice apex core as he felt his consciousness slowly fading away. Once more, he appeared in the lonely-looking space. Since Ryuk could already see the forming silhouette, it somehow created a template that he could easily copy into the room. In an instant, a powerful will surged through the room as Ryuk drew in the mana from the apex core, infiltrating the space, and he began forming. To form, all one needed was a very powerful will to make the mana come to form what they had in mind. Ryuk's will was more than strong enough, and his intelligence made things even easier as he began molding the mana into his heart's desires. Silently, mana stacked upon mana, gaining its colors and rising higher and higher into the space. With more mana came more creation, and more of the apex space widened as Ryuk kept up with the creation, a serious expression on his face. The more he formed, the clearer the image of his apex realm became in his head and all around him, further guiding him to the next process. And silently, this continued for exactly 5 days before, finally. Oh! A loud exhale echoed through the apex realm. It was a mini-world of endless mountainous peaks, stretching far beyond the horizon, their jagged forms piercing through the heavens. Each mountain was cloaked in a pristine blanket of snow, shimmering under an eternal twilight where the sky alternated between hues of icy blue and silvery white. The air was alive with an almost ethereal stillness, punctuated only by the ghostly whispers of frigid winds that wandered through the peaks, carrying the delicate frost-laden scent of untouched purity. Above it all, atop the tallest and most majestic peak, there was no grand-looking ice throne or extravagant structure. Only Ryuk calmly sitting at the top of the mountain, exuding an aura of calm dominion. From his vantage point, the entire realm stretched beneath him like an infinite kingdom carved from snow and frost. His figure was a solitary silhouette against the luminous backdrop, yet it did not make him irrelevant. Instead, it emphasized the extent of his space's power and control. The chilling air swirled gently around him as though bowing to his presence, while snowflakes danced in intricate patterns, their descent almost reverent. The stillness of Ryuk's silhouette emanated an overwhelming sense of balance and unchallenged authority, where every gust of wind, every flurry of snow, responded to Ryuk's every breath. Apex realm, open, Ryuk commanded, his voice ringing gently through the space. In the next instant, runic lines appeared all over the entire realm as the entire space began swallowing all of the apex energy from the core. In the cultivation room, the entire pool was relatively calm, with the slumbering figure of Ryuk kneeling in it. But then, Ryuk's lips curled instinctively, and the entire world was set into chaos as a shocking shockwave exploded out from Ryuk. Quickly, all of the mana instantly flooded into Ryuk. Mana was quickly formed, yet it never matched the power of the intriguing dragging force bursting out from Ryuk's essence. Quietly, Ryuk watched as mana permeated through the entire apex realm. New runes began appearing all over the mountain surfaces and the blue-white sky, and everything began solidifying as if coming into existence. Ryuk watched all of this silently, and after about 5 hours of watching, the entire area finally calmed. Now, the colors of the world were even more vivid, and the gorgeous peaks couldn't look more complete and absolute. In the next instant, after everything calmed down, Ryuk slowly turned to look at his naked body, finding runic lines beginning to appear all over it, and all of a sudden, they began filling up with a calm blue light. Quickly, the runic tattoo of a single silhouette of a mountain appeared over Ryuk's pale skin, along with snowy flakes dancing all around. Immediately, a powerful surge of energy emanated through Ryuk, whose body remained rigid, his teeth chattering against each other, as the air around him fiercely crackled, until, eventually, everything came to a stop, and Ryuk exhaled loudly. So this is it, the plane of ascension. He mused as his consciousness dispersed and he opened his eyes to the sight of the golden room. Looking beneath him, there was no longer mana in the pool, all having been absorbed by Ryuk. Then the notification appeared. Congratulations on Host successfully forming the Apex Realm. Host has broken through 2 minor cultivation stages. Host is now at the core stage of the Plane of Ascension. Congratulations. Hidden quest completed. Reach the Plane of Ascension. Rewards: plus 30 permanent attribute points to all unlocked stats. All Host's Frost abilities have been leveled up to level 5. Congratulations. Host's mana capability has vastly increased. The system notification flashed all over Ryuk's gaze as he flashed a smile. Raising up his hands, immediately, a lonely cold snow dagger appeared in Ryuk's grasp. But this time, he couldn't help but sense a difference in that the blade of the dagger couldn't be any sharper. The cold aura around it froze the air apart as ice blocks began raining down from the chilled air. My power has improved. A monumental transformation indeed. Ryuk mused as he rose up from the pool and wore back his clothes before ordering. Activate System Interface. System Interface. Name: Ryuk Null. Race: half null, half unknown. Age: 16. Cultivation stage: core stage of the Plane of Ascension. So I moved directly through the initial Plane of Ascension straight to the core of the stage? This is due to Host's perfection at Plane of Origin, which is almost no different from the initial Plane of Ascension, thereby fostering rapid growth, and Host's ability to solidify the realm to the level of the core stage of the Plane of Ascension through his powerful will and the great quality of mana possessed. The system explained as Ryuk nodded, clenching and unclenching his fists, as he felt the monumental power hidden within. Tell me, system, how long has it been? A total of 6 days, Host. I guess the Ascension Academy will be opening its doors soon then. I should move out, Ryuk stated as he walked out of the room. The room slowly began regenerating itself with mana, just as the half-fallen one had stated. As Ryuk walked down the halls, he could already feel the ringing bickering as he arrived at a balcony. Looking down, he could see a large living room with a curvular-shaped sofa. On one of the sofas sat the half-fallen and her daughter, Morgane, sitting on the floor. The half-fallen seemed to be helping her comb her hair, but appeared to be adding a touch of wickedness, resulting in occasional yelps from Morgane, who tried to free herself from her control, only to end up failing spectacularly as she rigidly refused to move under the strange force that covered her. Finally done? The half-fallen one said as she raised her head, citing Ryuk. who nodded as he climbed down the stairs, moving toward the sofa. Thank you very much for the room. The Mana Reserve helped Hey, Ryuk! Come get me out of this witch's claws. Morgaine yelled for help before Ryuk could complete his words. The half-fallen one chuckled sarcastically. Nothing seems to hold you back, Ryuk replied innocently to Morgaine, who seemed to be simply sitting down obediently. He wondered why she even needed help at all. Tch, I can't even... Morgaine was saying when suddenly she quieted down, her face contorted in surprise. She opened her mouth to say something, only to fail, and tears almost burst out of her eyes. Now I can't talk too. Forget about the cultivation room, Ryuk, the half-fallen one said. And also, she added, narrowing her eyes to look at Ryuk intently before surprise found its way onto her face. You already broke through to the core stage of the plane of ascension from the perfectionate stage of the origin plane? She asked. Even Morgaine spun and furrowed her eyebrows at Ryuk before the same shock flashed in her eyes. Ryuk had basically crossed over a cultivation stage, skipping days of relentless cultivation in a little less than 5 days. The mana reserves were more abundant than I thought, Ryuk said, scratching the back of his head. Such amazing talent. Good, good. Not like this untalented grumpy head, the half-fallen one said, referencing Morgaine, who could only roll her eyes and ignore them both. Come sit. The half-fallen one invited him by her side. Ryuk, after much internal debate, finally agreed. Anyway, the Ascension Academy gate will be opening to new students tomorrow. You'll be returning back to the Arisen Hall with Morgaine, and you 10 who passed will all be taken to the Academy directly, the half-fallen one stated to him as Ryuk nodded. It was just like Morgaine had previously said, that the gate to the Ascension Academy wouldn't be open for a week from now. I must also remind you, Ryuk, and listen well, Grumpy Head, you will be going to the Ascension Academy under the image of the fallen family. Whatever your actions are, always consider the face of the fallen family. Do not commit any crimes that will sully the family's face. I'm afraid if you do, you will be facing the wrath of the fallen elders, and I have no control over their ultimate decisions, the half-fallen one said with a smile while combing Morgaine's hair. But Ryuk could quietly sense the seriousness in her voice. I'll be going under the fallen family? But I'm a human. Won't that make me look like I'm some sort of bootlicker to them? Ryuk thought, not finding that funny at all. But then he shrugged. Who cares what others think? I'm there to grow stronger. Anyone can have their opinion if they want. So far they don't affect me, Ryuk thought to himself. I understand, he replied, as the half-fallen one nodded. Also, just like how you 10 going will be one of the ultimate geniuses of the fallen family, there will be other families too, each of them 10, and each of them possessing just the same power and potential as you 10. I heard there are even a few 1 in a million geniuses from the other families that will be going to the Ascension Academy. Do not overlook anybody, or eye them as weak. Also, you 10 will be moving to the Academy, and according to the terms of moving, it states that we, of the 10 families, sign that each of our geniuses can die during the Academy training, with a compensation to the family in such a scenario. No amount of compensation is worth a life, so I'll advise you to be careful. The 10 families might all be pinned under one name, and make most think we're all on the same page, but we're not. There are alliances, but that doesn't mean we'll hesitate to go to war with each other. We're not that close or familiar. If anything, there's incredible rivalry to dominate. So don't go getting too cozy with the other races. Especially the geniuses. They put their families first before any situation. So be careful and don't fall into temptations. Especially you, Ryuk, the half-fallen one said as Ryuk turned her attention to her. You're a human, Ryuk, under the fallen family banner. Your loyalty to the fallen family is the worst amongst all the 10 leaving for the Ascension Academy, making you the easiest to be deceived. From you, they can try getting information on the fallen family and try getting you to come to their side. Betrayal is paid back by one thing only in the fallen family, and that is death. We, of the fallen, are the most secretive of the families, and we would like to keep it that way. In fact, many people still don't know how our side of the world is completely covered in twilight. It might seem like such minor information, but we keep it a secret. I expect you to do the same. Never reveal anything you see. Not the number of elders, not the lost family's number and their names, not the number of geniuses that were eliminated, not our skills and abilities, not the meaning of our wings being gold and some being black. Reveal nothing related to us, if you still wish to be looked at as one of us. I hope you understand my deeper meaning, Ryuk. The half-fallen one's voice rang out through the entire room, as the place quieted down, but not for very long. I understand, Ryuk said, releasing a nod to the half-fallen one. The half-fallen one's fear wasn't unfounded. Truly, he was the only human among the fallen geniuses and, just as she had said, also the one with the weakest loyalty to the fallen family. Actually, as for Ryuk, he didn't really care much about the fallen family at all. And truly, with such weak loyalty, he could become a target for the other 10 family geniuses, who might try using him to gain access to information on the fallen family. Her fears were truly well-founded, and Ryuk had no problem stating he understood that because he knew well. Not only did he not give much of a damn about the fallen family, but he also didn't give a damn about their abilities or machinations. His goal for going to the school was already clear to him, and anyone who dared step in his way would be eliminated swiftly. This was a race with life hanging in the balance. He didn't have much time for pointless camaraderie between the 10 families, nor did he wish to ever get involved in them. That's very good, and really all you need to take important note of. Well then, who wants a sweet delicacy? The half-fallen one said excitedly as she rose to her feet and walked away from the living room. This way, Ryuk, she called out as Ryuk watched Morgane finally rise to her feet, her chest heaving up and down like one sitting who just had a marathon. She seemed one step close to brooding out in anger, and Ryuk couldn't help but quicken his steps. The Eclipse Citadel was home to many high-rising and gigantic castle-like buildings, but still, the tallest of them was none other than the Castle of the Half-Fallen, towering with twice the height of every other castle. The air at the top of this building was incredibly violent, and on it, a figure could barely be seen, his hair and clothing flapping wildly in the strong wind. The figure was none other than Ryuk, whose calm gaze stared down from above the high balustrade structure, overlooking the entire twilight-filled city. He knew very well this might perhaps be his last time in the city, and so he had decided to take the night here to give it one final look before the day arrived. It also served as a way for him to get his thoughts in control and plan deeply about his next steps. I've grown faster, insanely faster. A month ago, I was basically without a single droplet of mana at all and knew absolutely nothing about cultivation. Yet look at me now. I've moved through an entire plane of cultivation in a single month and managed to reach the core of the second level of cultivation stages, catching up to the geniuses of the Fallen Family, one of the most powerful geniuses of End-Earth. I have grown really fast. He mused to himself, a small smile appearing at the side of his lips but soon clearing away just as fast as it had come, as his teeth clenched together. No, I'm not strong enough yet. Uncle Bob, there seems to be a lot surrounding you and your death that I don't seem to know. But the least I could do now is killing the one who finally took away your last breath of life. I'll fulfill my promise to you, Uncle Bob. I'll chase that null to the end of the stars and rip off its head. Right now, I'm at the core stage of the plane of ascension. That null is an A-grade mutated beast, meaning it's around the plane of cataclysm. I'm not strong enough at all. Not even close. And that's why I'll be heading to the Ascension Academy, to cover these steps of cultivation as fast as I possibly can and bring an end to the null. Then, only then, will I be able to at least take a sigh of relief, Ryuk thought coldly, as bones cracked from his fist being clenched tightly. Ryuk might look chill. He might look lovable and cute. But if one knew the anger that burned within him, the helplessness of losing his only family member to a null, the blame on himself from learning he might have had something to do with his own uncle's death, the anger he felt toward knowing his own family members took away everything he had, save for his heart and brain. The injustice he felt learning that they would be coming to take away all the remaining things he had left and bringing an end to his existence, just like they did to his Uncle Bob. If only one knew what lay beneath Ryuk's cute figure, pressed down on his heart. The thing they would see would not be a cute-looking 16-year-old boy, but a towering monster, the incarnation of Apex will for revenge and annihilation. Hoo-hoo! A loud exhale rang through the entire top of the castle as Ryuk exhaled loudly, his pumping heart slowing down to its initial tempo as his clenched fist straightened back. Still, it's a beautiful night, is it not? The question left Ryuk's tender lips as his aura returned to normal, and suddenly the reply came. Yes, a beautiful night it truly is. The voice came from beside Ryuk, their hands resting on the iron railing, staring down below. It was none other than the half-fallen one, and once more, she had appeared without Ryuk being able to sense anything until she was just a few centimeters away from him. If she can easily appear and reappear so quickly without being sensed, how hard would it be for her to pierce a blade through my heart? I can bet on my life. I wouldn't even know when it happened and would most likely be dead before I could react at all. This woman beside me, she's really a horror, and my body seems to know that. In silence, the half-fallen stood as she looked into the distance, along with Ryuk, the only sound to be heard being the air lifting around their heads and the flapping of their shirts. Thank you, half-fallen one. Ryuk's voice suddenly rang out, quickly carried and extinguished by the wind. It caught the ear of the half-fallen one still, who looked at him. For what? The cultivation room? I already asked you to forget that, she said as Ryuk shook his head. No, not for that. I'm thanking you for your belief in me. The belief that made you welcome me into the fallen family abode with nothing but an authority card. It might be easy for me to tell myself you had no choice but to let me in because of the authority card, but that would be delusional. You could have ended me as easily as breathing when I first showed up before you. You could have been disgusted by my weak presence for even daring to stand before your mighty self and asking for a request. And even if the elders had said, "Why did you bring an end to his life?" you could have simply said, "He had obtained the authority card in an illegal way like most turnovers do," and that would have brought an end to the discussion. When I came here, I truly was at my lowest of the low. No sign of potential at all, nothing pleasing or fun, no seeming value of self. But somehow you rained down everything for me. You could have denied me and retrieved the card, but you didn't. You should have been insulted by my weakness and refusing my request. But you weren't. Even if you were to be nice, you could have simply thrown me into the Ascension Academy, and I would have become nothing but an outer sect disciple, slaving away for the other students. But you took the time to explain carefully. You even gave me a choice and followed through with my decision. And in the end, you came to watch my fight. When you came, you obviously didn't come to be disappointed, and you knew well I'd be fighting powerful plain geniuses. But somehow still, you had confidence in me. Even if I didn't win, I would somehow still be worthy of your effort for coming down from your castle and watching my fights. You believed in me even when I was nothing and had nothing, and you did that to the end of it all. Even though I have no idea why you did it, at least I'm grateful for being given a chance to prove myself. Ryuk stated what he had formerly kept in his heart, but expressed fully now. Every word of his he meant. He knew well the half-fallen one was strong enough to bring an end to him and suffer no punishment at all, yet somehow she had refrained from all the possible paths and actually took the time to watch Ryuk grow. While he wasn't sure why she did that, her belief and faith in him had always been clear to see. And Ryuk had to say he was at least grateful for that. Who else really believed in him in this wide galaxy except Uncle Bob and Old Jack? And now, one of the two really dead, leaving just a singular more person with belief in him still living. It was always nice to have another. You know, Ryuk, the order of the worlds, it is a little unbalanced. The strong are usually worshipped by the weak, but not really willingly. The weak might guffaw and obsequiously act on every one of our commands, but secretly they despise the strong. Most of them hold nothing but the littlest flickers of reverence. To find a weak person who adores the strong without any ounce of jealousy, hatred, or envy is really rare nowadays. Even the weak geniuses with massive potential despise the strong, and use their envy of their power to try and become stronger. When you appeared before me, you held nothing but reverence. I didn't sense the slightest flicker of negativity from you at all. From my first gaze of you, you managed to amuse me, and for that, I decided to give you an audience. So when you appeared before me, it is not that you were of no value. No, you actually had a value of amusement, and that is something truly rare. That faint amusement made me believe, and I am not one to abandon my beliefs midway. That is why I had done everything I had. Well, at least the major reason, she said silently. And as for believing in your potential, that is true the second I received that card from you. And when I gave you a chance to prove yourself, you really did prove yourself. Majority of our fallen geniuses have been cultivating since they were 16, and now they're all 18 or 19, with their cultivation at the peak of the plane of ascension. When you appeared before me, it was clear that you had just broken through. Yet right now, in mere days, you're almost catching up to them. Your potential is terrifying, Ryuk. At least, I only know of 5 other people who had the same terrifying potential as yours, and believe me, I have met thousands of geniuses. So I could say my amusement really paid off well in the end. So, it was all worth it, she said with a loud exhale. And I have to say, I do love your character. You, coming from the lowest grade of End-Earth, has taught you humility, and I don't think there's anyone living in such an area ever having life come to them with ease. You've had a pretty hard life, Ryuk. At least hard to the standards of our own big cities. This had molded you pretty well. And you might think, could there be any geniuses out there who will look at a being of my power level and hold no reverence? But most geniuses I've come across, when they look at me, have the thoughts of, if I was your age, I would be just as powerful. They have the talent and believe so much in it that it somehow eliminates the humbleness, and arrogance is what that soon lead to. Those geniuses that are humble are usually those who have seen the limits of their own talent and with very little potential. But you, a person with a humble background, knowing well of the hardships of the poor, yet equipped with a potential for power that rivals those at one of the best grades of End-Earth. Tell me, Ryuk, is that not value in and of itself? Perhaps it is? Ryuk mused under his breath. He really had not seen himself as a humble person, nor had he seen himself as talented. He only knew that his strength was not enough, and he was running out of time. Talent, humility, what were those in the face of his eventual death? But if there was one thing he knew, it was recognizing when people did good for him. Just like how he still remembered how Duke the Lion had helped him, and how he ought to repay the vampire one day. You might be more than you believe yourself to be, Ryuk, the half-fallen one said cryptically, as Ryuk unconsciously looked at his hands, but all he could see was his weakness. It's still not enough, was the thought that reverberated in his heart. Let me ask you something, Ryuk, the half-fallen one said in a more relaxed tone, and Ryuk gave her his attention. What do you think of Morgane? She suddenly asked, while looking straight at him, as Ryuk furrowed his eyebrows for a short while before replying. She's strong, very strong. Her physical abilities can match mine, if not even surpass them, and I still don't know yet how to defeat her domain. Ryuk replied with a pretty serious expression that made the half-fallen one look at him strangely for a while before she giggled out loudly. What? Ryuk asked, wondering if he had said the wrong thing. That wasn't the answer I was expecting. Your reverence for strength is quite out of this world. Is there any other thing you see in people, save for their strength? The half-fallen one asked, as Ryuk thought about it long and hard before shaking his head. No, there isn't much, save for that. There are many other strengths, Ryuk. Qualities of a person are strengths on their own. Qualities like bravery, compassion, love, belief. Those are strengths in and of themselves. And when you reach a sufficiently high level, then perhaps strength, like how hard you punch or kick, no longer becomes a priority. Just like how money will no longer be a priority for a once poor but now billionaire figure. The half-fallen one explained as Ryuk narrowed his eyes. A time when strength will no longer be of interest. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Right now, I am almost at the peak of my potential. I no longer see much in the strength of physical power. Fights don't interest me much, even though I was quite the crackhead like Morgane when I was younger. Now, I have to say, Being with Morgaine herself, I desire more than going into seclusion and improving my strength, the half-fallen one said. But somehow, Ryuk could sense something in her voice. Something not quite right. You worry for her? He asked, noticing the melancholy of the half-fallen one. I do. But why? You're the half-fallen. Don't you have enough power to protect her? Ryuk couldn't help but ask. He never for once imagined there would be someone as powerful as the half-fallen one yet having worries in her mind. I don't have the power. In this world, to survive, we need personal strength. I have fought wars and battles, dancing on the rope of life and death countless times to reach this level, where almost nothing in this world is a threat to my life. But while I can truly defend Morgaine, she must also learn to go out and survive. She must fight her battles and fears, brush shoulders with death countless times. So one day, she would reach my level. While I do have the power to stop such a fate for her, I know well that if she never goes through it, then not much will be there for her future. Much is there to lose over protecting her than to let her go out into the world and carve her own path, especially with there being no guarantee of me surviving till the end of her time, the half-fallen said as Ryuk nodded, slightly understanding her point of view. The Ascension Academy is a dangerous place, Ryuk. Very dangerous, I will warn you, the half-fallen one said seriously. There are many geniuses that will resume the Ascension Academy this year, all of them seemingly the best of the best amongst the various races. But through the last decade, the rate of graduation of the students from the Ascension Academy is around 30%. That means, in the span of 3 years, before the students are able to leave the Academy's hold, 70% of them are lost to the Academy, the half-fallen one said, as Ryuk's eyes bulged in shock. You think being able to pass and gain entrance is already difficult enough. Wait until you get into the Academy itself. Then you'll realize how brutal the Academy is. The half-fallen one finished, but Ryuk had his doubts. Why though? Why, even though you know that 70% of geniuses in the Ascension Academy die, do you still send the best of your geniuses to the place? It's like you're sending them to their death, something I would expect only a family with no choice to do. Ascension Academy is their only chance of survival. Sure, 70% of them die, but the remaining 30% who manage to come out are the hope of Endearth, the half-fallen one replied, but Ryuk didn't resonate with her. Hope of Endearth? All I see in Endearth are the top 10 families engaged in more senseless rivalry, and the weak worshipping the ass of the strong. Hope of Endearth? You mean for the remaining 30% who survive to help fight a better war for their families? Ryuk asked with a callous expression, as the half-fallen one chuckled. Do you really think that Endearth is as peaceful as the top 10 families doing their rivalry? Do you really think there are no exterior threats to us? Have you ever thought of why the top 10 families currently have a temporary alliance between each other? For what? To stop us from destroying each other. Is that really our thinking process? The half-fallen one asked with an amusing smile, as Ryuk thought about it well before nodding. I actually do so. Somehow, I feel dumbfounded that you really think so, but on the other hand, I am also proud. It means we, the elders, are doing quite the good job as guardians. The half-fallen one said with a hint of prideful mirth, though her face soon regained its focus. But now that you'll be leaving soon for the Ascension Academy, perhaps I'll let you in on a few secrets, she added, the loudness of her voice slightly toning down as Ryuk's ears perked. What secrets? In this world, Ryuk, we're never alone, the half-fallen one said, all bits of jest and casualness leaving her face as Ryuk's eyes sank into their depths. Have you heard of the Nulls? She asked, and Ryuk nodded. We of the 10 families have had no choice but to bond together with other races and, along with ourselves, to fight them. And yet, do you know we are still losing? Right now, as we speak, Ryuk, there are some places in this world where the flames of war are still blowing, and the smoke has yet to recede. The Nulls are overwhelming opponents, Ryuk. Truly overwhelming, and right now, this facade of peace is only maintained because there is a truce between us and the Nulls. A truce which is slowly teetering as years go by, and which will soon be broken. The nulls, for reasons unknown for the past 50 or so years, suddenly have the strongest of their powerhouses going into slumber. The smaller, less powerful nulls, due to this, are standing down and refraining from battles. And we End-Earth participants are also using this moment to catch our breath and regather our power. But if you think the nulls are the only problem we End-Earths are facing, then, oh, how wrong you are. There are dimensional gates appearing and appearing again, with new existences and entities descending from them into End-Earth, here and there. There have been 3 records where entities rivaling the nulls themselves have stepped forth into End-Earth through those dimensional gates. And mind you, the lowest number of casualties in these catastrophic events ranges from millions of deaths and more. But you've never really heard of them, have you? The dimensional gates and their entities? The half-fallen one asked as Ryuk shook his head. Then do you know who you should be grateful to for that? She asked, and Ryuk's eyebrows furrowed before they widened. Don't tell me. You don't really think the Ascension Academy was just an academy, did you? Just a place for you to go, get strong, and after 3 years, return back home, strong and respected, with all your wishes fulfilled? You don't really think we of the 10 families are sending 10 of our geniuses just because the Ascension Academy invited us, and we watch with wide eyes as we lose 70% of our young geniuses every year on this special invitation? Do you? The half-fallen one whispered to Ryuk, whose blood flowed faster, his head buzzing with countless possibilities. Our geniuses are the ones there, Ryuk. They're the ones dying and risking their lives fighting interdimensional creatures, just to make sure young ones like you never even hear of them. We've lost thousands of people to those bloody gates, Ryuk, every now and then. Yet what choice do we have but to send more? The fallen families aren't getting any invitations, Ryuk. We are being requested for the best of our geniuses to join this war. If we send our trashy geniuses, their chances of survival are 0. That'll be us killing ourselves. So we have to send our 10 best to them. At least as done by the percentile, their chances of surviving will increase even more. You're not just going to the academy to get strong, return home, gain respect, and have all your wishes fulfilled. You're going to the Ascension Academy to make sure a little boy named Ryuk in grade C, or D, or F City never even knows there are things called nulls and interdimensional beasts, believing it all to be nothing but fantasy. That is the true, harsh world that we all try so much to prevent you all from seeing, Ryuk. All of this peace that you see, this cozy twilight, this blissful love in the air, all of this is being maintained with the lives of others. And now, it will soon be your turn to take on this duty, the half-fallen one said, a tinge of sadness and an aura of melancholy shrouding her figure as Ryuk's mouth opened and closed again, finding it hard to muster a few words. Many of the geniuses arriving at the Ascension Academy will face their deaths due to their simple disbelief in how the world works. I am knocking this into your brain so when you're taken for a simple excursion, and you're then faced with the most hellish beasts you've ever seen in your life and asked to survive for a few days, you at least know to call your scythe into your hands and react as fast as possible. I never really knew that is how it is, Ryuk mused, feeling sorry for his earlier statements about the top 10 families being childish bickers. Only now did he know they were perhaps the people facing the most pressure. You were never meant to know. So, it's fine if you're a little bit ignorant, the half-fallen one said before she suddenly called his attention to something. And speaking of your scythe, Ryuk, there has been a little problem, the half-fallen one said as she turned her full attention to Ryuk, her eyes narrowing into slits. And what is that about? The meeting I went to was because of you, Ryuk. There is a debate amongst the elders of your battle with Ignatius. More of the abilities you have displayed during your battle. Your transformation, to be exact. The fallen elders fear it greatly. There is a power mixed in with your transformation. A power that resembles a race that was never meant to be. Unconsciously, Ryuk's heartbeat began beating faster and faster as he struggled to keep his calm. Damn.